Welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk podcast. As always, you can find the show on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. Today, we will be taking 4 NFL head coaches that need to be extended and kept long term where they are currently stationed. All right, let's get right into it. And the first head coach up that we'll be looking at is Shane Steichen of the Indianapolis Colts. He's a rookie head coach. He was given 3 years when he first came into the job. After this year he will only have 2. And he should be extended for about 4 or 5 more years. Let's be honest. He's done a fabulous job working with a an okay roster, we can say, and Gardner Minshew at quarterback for basically all their games. And imagine if they had Anthony Richardson with this team. I mean, this team is in the playoffs right now. They're 8-7. All they have to do is win, either win out or at least win one more game from my memory. That then they'll be in the playoffs. And imagine, yeah, if they did have Anthony Richardson, who was a top 5 first round pick of this past year's draft. And if they have him the whole year, knowing how dynamic Anthony Richardson is, they would win the AFC South. I can almost guarantee that with the way the Jaguars have played currently. They've been an up and down team, let's say. And they definitely would have had one of the top 3 seeds because of how easy their schedule was and how they've continued to win despite not having him. And you add a couple more players to this roster over the next couple years that Shane Steichen really likes. Give, Anthony Richardson one more. Pittman is a great weapon. Give him one more weapon. I know they got Alec Pierce, but he can be sort of a slot guy. Give him one more legit weapon on the outside. They have a good running game with Jonathan Taylor if he can ever get on the field again, and they have a really good offensive line. Shore up that defense a little bit on the back end, get some guys on the back end, that'll help them out over the next 3 or 4 years. This team is going to be contending for AFC championships. And I don't think that's that wild of a thing to say with the way Shane Steichen has coached. He's just been a fabulous coach. All right, the next head coach we will be looking at is Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. He's done a great job while he's been missing his fundamental piece on offense. One of the best running backs in the league, Nick Chubb. He's been out since week 2, if I do recall. And he's basically missed the whole entire offensive line at one point or another, and many of their backups as well. Got to get some guys in there to condition those guys. But that's beside the point. He's been missing his bread and butter, which is the ground game. And his defense is a top 2 defense in the nation. Them and the Ravens, I think, have the 2 best defenses, hands down. And, he still has to solve some problems. He's not a perfect head coach by any means. Some of his play calling can be a little iffy at times, some of his clock management. But overall, as a head coach, he should definitely be extended for, a couple more years at least. His contract's running up here in the next year or 2. He needs to get extended for a couple more years, because Amari Cooper has been a legit wide receiver and still will be for a couple more years, 1 or 2, as the number 1. Maybe he'll tail off toward 3 or 4 years more if they can keep him in the building. But, past that, they don't really have too much else. They have David Njoku, but he's not performed nearly as well as he should this year. But they need to get some other solid guys, some solid wide receivers. Same thing with the Colts, with Shane Steichen. Let's get some legit wide receivers in here who are not going to be liabilities. Elijah Moore has not been that great, let's be honest. But you can still play him in the slot. Let's just get another guy in there. And he still has to solve his quarterback problem because he has the underperforming Deshaun Watson, who didn't really play that well. And then you have Joe Flacco coming in, who has played better than him. And Joe Flacco just got off the couch a month ago. And Deshaun Watson is getting paid $60 million guaranteed for 3 more years. So you have to find a way to manage that problem. But that problem is falls on the GM too. So he'll have to communicate with the GM, but I think if Stefanski can keep this defense together for a couple more years, get some solid weapons, get some healthy guys in, and figure out the quarterback position, I think that he'll be really one of the better head coaches in the league. He is right now guiding his team to, I think, 10 wins at this point. And, he was coach of the year in 2020. And I think that there is a chance that he gets that award either this year or in the next coming years. Before we move on to our next head coach, if you haven't already, like the video if you've liked it so far. Drop a comment down below uh, for a head coach that you want to see extended that I haven't mentioned. And please consider subscribing. We're getting up there. We're moving. Let's keep this train rolling. All right, let's move on to our next head coach, Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos. Almost said New Orleans Saints. Denver Broncos. He's on the Broncos. And, he's dragged and clawed this team that was just so decimated last year. They were, they were a broken team last year. Russell Wilson was a broken quarterback last year, and he's dragged and clawed this team together so that they actually have been decent this year. They've had a couple marquee statement wins at Buffalo when people consider Buffalo to be a Super Bowl candidate. I don't think people share that same sentiment anymore, but that's a marquee win when it happened. And versus the Chiefs, that was a marquee win when it happened. That needed to happen where the Broncos took care of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes for like once in their life. I'm glad that they did that, and that's a statement win. They're not making the playoffs this year. They're 8-9. It would be, well, I think they're 7-9, something like that. But they're out. They have it. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. But this is a great step forward from last year's just abysmal showing, and they have a decent roster, but like I said, they've just been broken. Sean Payton fixed it. Now they're going to be ready to move on, and Sean Payton's going to get some guys in there, some defensive help in there. They need some help on defense. They have some guys like Patrick Surtain, and they need to help him out a little bit, if you know what I mean. And Sean Payton did such a wonderful job in New Orleans. He's going to bring this winning culture back to Denver, who was just stuck last year before. I think they figured things out in the coming years, and they need to have Sean Payton stay for the long run. Don't lose them. They need to have Sean Payton for the long run here. The last head coach we will be looking at is John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens. He definitely deserves to be in the building a lot more. He signed a 3-year extension in May of 2020, from what I remember, and he has, that means his contract will be up in 2025, which is now basically a year and a half away, and he needs to get that renewed. He needs to get another contract in there. The Ravens organization needs him to be in the building for 5 more years because he's been such a masterful head coach. He's been such a great head coach for them. He's always had that winning. He's always been winning, but now he has Lamar locked up for 5 more years with them, and having him, play at the best that he's ever played before. After they just dismantled the best roster by far in the NFL with 49ers, just dismantled them completely. They have a top 2 defense, like I said, with the Browns, and their offense is just one of the better ones in the NFL. They're not the best. Zay Flowers drops the ball a couple times. He scores a touchdown or two, goes for about 73 yards. They need to get him up to a level where he's playing more of an elite style ball than a very good type of ball. Odell Beckham isn't going to be there to stay, so they need to get 1 or 2 more wideouts for Lamar, this new pass-first Lamar, it looks like, and just keeping guys healthy. Maybe get a guy that's not going to injure himself once a year for a whole year in J.K. Dobbins. Get a better running back than that. Get a guy in the draft, something like that. And because J.K. Dobbins has hurt himself, I think, every year. I don't know. He's a good running back. He's a mid running back, but he just keeps getting himself injured. Get some guys in the building. The Ravens are 1 or 2 pieces away from just absolutely destroying everyone. They really are. And, give Harbaugh as many years as you can, because that guy has built this Ravens roster up, and he's done everything he can to get to this point. And now he's just winning everything, and they're going to be blowing the doors off of people in a couple years if they keep this same roster, which is going to be near impossible, but Harbaugh might be able to do it with his GM. So he definitely needs to be locked up for a couple more years. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it to the end of the video, you've liked the video, so like the video. Comment down below which coach you think deserves an extension. And this is more of a part 2. the part one was where I said four NFL coaches that need to be fired. So if you haven't watched that, I would encourage you to go watch that one. That one's a fun one as well. Share this video, do all that stuff. Click the bell, subscribe, do all that. And I'll see you in the next one. There's a lot of changes, exciting new changes coming to this channel. So I want you guys to hop on board. So let's do it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.